Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to all my brothers and sisters. Welcome to the Roots of Islam channel. What if a man who had dedicated his entire life to the sacred duties of priesthood, immersed in the theology and rituals of the church, suddenly found himself questioning the very foundations of his faith? Can years of devoted service and deep study within one religious tradition lead not to stronger conviction but to an unexpected journey that culminates in embracing a completely different spiritual path, challenging everything he once held true? Imagine a life of profound commitment to one faith, dramatically transformed by an unyielding search for truth, leading to an extraordinary leap of conviction. Today we delve into the compelling and inspiring true story of a former Christian priest who, through meticulous study and profound reflection, discovered the truth of Islam. The journey of faith is often deeply personal, shaped by upbringing, community, and individual experiences. For many, religion is a heritage passed down through generations, embraced from childhood, and rarely questioned in its fundamental tenets. The priesthood, in particular, represents the epitome of inherited faith, demanding unwavering commitment, years of intensive theological study, and a lifetime dedicated to serving the spiritual needs of a congregation. A priest is not just a worshipper. He is a spiritual guide, an interpreter of sacred texts, and a living embodiment of his faith's doctrines. To hold such a revered position, one must possess an unshakable belief in the truth of the teachings he preaches. In the Western world, particularly in countries with a long-standing Christian heritage, the church has been a central pillar of society for centuries, influencing culture, laws, and individual morality. For a man to ascend to the priesthood in such a context, it signifies not only deep personal piety but also intellectual conformity to established dogma. The theological seminaries are bastions of specific doctrines designed to instill unwavering faith and equip priests to defend those beliefs against any challenge. Therefore, the idea of a consecrated priest, a shepherd of souls, not only questioning his foundational faith but ultimately leaving it to embrace a completely different religion, especially one like Islam, often portrayed with misunderstanding in Western media, is an event of immense significance and profound personal courage. Such a transformation is rarely impulsive. It often stems from years, sometimes decades, of internal struggle, meticulous intellectual inquiry, and a profound spiritual yearning that can no longer be ignored. It means dismantling a lifetime of deeply ingrained beliefs, risking social ostracization, familial disapproval, and the loss of a revered profession and community. It speaks to an unyielding pursuit of truth, regardless of the personal cost. The individual must possess an extraordinary intellectual honesty to challenge his own deeply held convictions, and an unwavering spiritual courage to follow where that truth leads, even if it takes him to an unforeseen and, for many, controversial destination. His story transcends mere conversion. It's a powerful testament to the universal human quest for ultimate truth and the transformative power of spiritual revelation. Our story focuses on Jerome, a man whose life was for decades meticulously woven into the fabric of the church. Born into a devout Catholic family in a quiet European town, Jerome was a bright, contemplative child. From an early age, he felt a profound calling to serve God. His path seemed preordained. He excelled in religious studies, entered the seminary with conviction, and dedicated himself to years of rigorous theological training. He was ordained as a priest in his mid-20s, filled with zealous devotion and an earnest desire to guide his flock. For nearly 15 years, Father Jerome served his congregation with unwavering dedication, celebrated Mass, heard confessions, comforted the sick, and preached sermons filled with passion and conviction. He was respected by his parishioners, admired by his peers, and deeply committed to his vows. Yet beneath the outward tranquility of his priestly life, a subtle unease began to stir. It started quietly with intellectual questions that arose during his deep dives into biblical texts and church history. He was a scholar by nature, always seeking to understand the why behind every doctrine. He wrestled with complex theological concepts, the nature of God, the Trinity, the concept of original sin, and the historical evolution of various church dogmas. He diligently sought answers within Christian scholarship, consulting countless commentaries and engaging in theological debates. But some questions persisted, leaving him with a gnawing sense of intellectual dissatisfaction. He felt a gap between the profound simplicity of God's oneness that resonated deeply within him and the complex doctrines he was sworn to uphold. The turning point came when Father Jerome was assigned to a new parish in a diverse urban area. This brought him into contact with people from various backgrounds, including a small, vibrant Muslim community. Initially, his interactions were purely interfaith, respectful dialogues aimed at fostering understanding. He began reading about Islam, not with the intention of converting, but out of academic curiosity and a desire to better understand his Muslim neighbors. He picked up a translation of the Quran, expecting to find inconsistencies or simplistic narratives. Instead, he found himself captivated. The Quran's unwavering emphasis on Tawheed, the absolute oneness of God, pure and unadulterated, struck him with immense force. It was a concept of God that felt profoundly simple, logical and majestic. There were no intermediaries, no complex theological mysteries that defied human reason. The Quran spoke directly to the heart and the intellect, inviting reflection and encouraging the pursuit of knowledge. He found verses that spoke of Jesus, peace be upon him, as a revered prophet, born miraculously but not divine, and Mary, peace be upon her, as a pure and honored figure, concepts that resonated with his Christian background while correcting what he now perceived as deviations from an original monotheistic message. Father Jerome began a secret, intense period of study. He devoured books on Islamic history, hadith collections, and the lives of the prophets. He spent countless nights comparing Quranic narratives with biblical accounts, finding striking parallels and what he saw as clarifications and perfect fulfillments in Islam. The clarity, consistency, and comprehensiveness of Islam as a complete way of life, addressing every aspect from spirituality to social justice, resonated deeply. He was drawn to the simplicity of Islamic worship, the direct prayer to God, the humility of prostration, the sense of unity in congregational prayer. He began to experiment with the daily prayers in the solitude of his room, finding an unprecedented peace and spiritual connection he had rarely felt in his priestly duties. The internal conflict became immense. He was a priest, a pillar of his community, a man who had dedicated his life to Christ. To change his faith meant shattering his entire world, his vows, his profession, his community, his family's expectations. The fear of loneliness, social ostracization, and the immense personal cost was overwhelming, yet the truth he had discovered, the spiritual tranquility that now enveloped him, was undeniable. His intellectual questions had found their answers, and his spiritual yearning had found its ultimate home. After months of agonizing deliberation and prayer, Jerome made the most difficult decision of his life. He discreetly sought out a knowledgeable imam from the local Muslim community he had engaged with in interfaith dialogue. He explained his journey, his intellectual convictions, and his spiritual yearning. The imam, understanding the gravity of his situation, offered guidance and support without pressure. One quiet morning, in a small, unassuming room at the mosque, with only the imam and a few trusted witnesses present, Father Jerome, now simply Jerome, spoke the sacred words of the Shahada. Ashhadu alla ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. The weight of years lifted from his shoulders, replaced by a profound sense of liberation and peace. Tears flowed freely, tears of relief, of surrender, of a long-sought truth finally embraced. He was no longer a priest but a Muslim, a servant of Allah, ready to embark on a new chapter of life filled with certainty and purpose. The initial aftermath was as challenging as he had anticipated. His family was heartbroken, struggling to comprehend his decisions. Some friends and former parishioners felt betrayed, while others expressed shock and disbelief. He lost his profession, his income, and the familiar routines of his past life. Yet Jerome faced these challenges with the same quiet resolve that had led him to Islam. He was patient, loving, and articulate in explaining his journey, emphasizing that his decision was rooted in a search for truth, not a rejection of his past or those he loved. He found unexpected support in the Muslim community, which embraced him with warmth and understanding. They saw his sincerity, his knowledge, and his courage. Jerome, with his deep theological background, quickly became a valuable asset. He began dedicating his time to learning Arabic, studying the Quran in its original language, and delving deeper into Islamic jurisprudence and spirituality. His sharp intellect and eloquent communication skills found a new purpose, explaining Islam to others, particularly to those from Christian backgrounds, by drawing parallels and clarifying misconceptions. He lectured at mosques, participated in interfaith dialogues, and wrote articles, sharing his unique perspective as a former priest who had found profound truth in Islam. His life became a powerful testament to intellectual honesty and spiritual courage, inspiring countless others. The story of a former priest discovering Islam is far more than an individual conversion. It represents a profound microcosm of the ongoing global dialogue between faiths and the universal human quest for ultimate truth. It powerfully challenges the pervasive notion that intellectual rigor inevitably leads away from religion, or that one's inherited faith is always the final destination. Instead, it demonstrates that for some sincere inquiry, even within the confines of one's existing tradition, can lead to a deeper, more comprehensive understanding of the divine, often found in unexpected places. This narrative highlights Islam's unique appeal to the intellectually honest and spiritually yearning, particularly those from monotheistic backgrounds. The clarity of Tawhid, the emphasis on direct worship, and the logical consistency of Islamic teachings often resonate deeply with those who have wrestled with complex theological doctrines. Such conversions serve as compelling bridges of understanding, helping to demystify Islam for non-Muslims by showing that its truth can be embraced by individuals from diverse and respected backgrounds. They remind us that the human heart in its purest form seeks truth, and when found, it often transcends all societal, cultural, and professional boundaries, leading to a profound transformation of life and purpose. The journey of a former Christian priest converting to Islam embodies several profound aspects of controversial leadership, precisely because it shatters deeply ingrained societal and religious norms. Firstly, the priest's personal act of conversion is an act of extreme controversial leadership. By abandoning the priesthood and embracing Islam, he directly challenges the very foundation of his former faith, his sacred vows, and the authority of the church. This is controversial because it implicitly questions the validity of a long-standing tradition he once upheld, potentially causing immense distress and anger among former congregants, colleagues, and family. His choice, made public or private, acts as a living testament that a deeply entrenched spiritual path might not hold all the answers, leading by radical example. Secondly, the intellectual honesty and courage to pursue truth regardless of personal cost represent a controversial form of leadership. For a priest trained to defend specific doctrines, to then meticulously study and accept an alternative faith demonstrates an intellectual integrity that defies conformity. This form of leadership is controversial because it places truth above loyalty to institution or tradition, potentially inspiring others to engage in similar critical self-reflection, which can be seen as destabilizing to established religious structures. Thirdly, the potential for the former priest to explain Islam to Christian audiences from his unique perspective is a highly controversial and powerful form of leadership. Having walked in their shoes, he can articulate Islamic concepts in ways that resonate with their background, directly addressing common misconceptions or theological comparisons. This leadership is controversial because it can be seen as an aggressive form of dawah, inviting to Islam by some in the Christian community, and potentially as a source of contention within the Muslim community regarding how converts should best engage with their former faith. Finally, the redefinition of spiritual authority and truth that his journey represents is a controversial form of leadership. He moved from being an authority within one religious hierarchy to becoming a seeker and then a proponent of a different truth. This challenges the notion that spiritual authority is solely vested in traditional religious institutions or specific historical lineages. His life story leads by example, demonstrating that profound spiritual truth can be found through individual inquiry, and that true guidance can manifest outside of conventional expectations, a message that can be deeply unsettling to those invested in maintaining established religious orders. With that said, thanks for watching, and until the next script, must